the seat they tried to take. It happened so quickly, almost too fast to comprehend. Before she could speak, a man in a navy blazer with an airline badge on his lapel grabbed her gently but firmly by the arm. "This area is for first-class passengers only," he said, loud enough for at least a dozen people in the terminal to hear. Eleanor Vance didn't argue. She simply extended her hand and offered her boarding pass, seat 1A, clearly marked and verified. He glanced at it, frowned, and without an apology, murmured, "We'll need to reconfirm," already motioning for security. Within moments, the scene was set. A black woman standing silently in a premium boarding zone was escorted away like a criminal. No outburst, no cause, no reason. The white man behind her, no boarding pass visible, was let through without a question. No one at that gate, not the smirking supervisor, not the uniformed agents, not even the silent bystanders realized who Eleanor was. Not just another traveler, not someone who bought her way into luxury. Eleanor Vance was the majority shareholder in the investment firm that held substantial power over this very airline's board. And the downfall was already in motion. It was just past 6:15 a.m. at Liberty International Airport. Still early enough that the air inside terminal B carried the quiet urgency of polished shoes and clicking heels. Eleanor, clad in a sleek black coat, a minimalist wool blend, with a leather briefcase in one hand and calm precision in her step, walked with the experience of someone who'd passed through more international gates than most staff had attended. She wasn't there for indulgence. She was en route to Geneva, scheduled for an 8:10 a.m. flight, where she'd share a closed-door meeting that would decide the fate of a multi-billion-dollar asset realignment in European tech. The day should have been simple, but something was off the moment she approached the first-class counter. The attendant didn't look her in the eye. He didn't scan her pass or ask for ID. He simply glanced at her skin, then gestured to the far left. "Economy's down there." "I'm flying first class," Eleanor said evenly, holding up her phone. Her ticket glowed on the screen. "Geneva, seat 1A, premium check-in." The man didn't even glance at it. "Left lane, ma'am." Eleanor didn't flinch. "This is my lane." The man's jaw locked. "Please step aside." A man in khakis and a travel blazer strolled up next to her. White, mid-40s, no luggage. He was greeted with a smile and a question about water preference, still or sparkling. Eleanor circled to the side, approached a different kiosk. There, another employee finally scanned her pass. "Oh, 1A, good seat." No acknowledgement of the earlier exchange. Just casual small talk, as if everything prior hadn't just happened. She said nothing. Through TSA pre-check, her global entry should have guaranteed a swift process. But the scanner lit up red, random secondary screening. The officer said. She looked past him and saw 3 passengers breeze through the exact same line without pause. 2 white women, 1 man in a sports cap. Her bags were flagged. The agent who inspected them treated the contents like garage sale leftovers. Her tablet, her documentation folders, one marked Ally or Capital, he flipped through it with unloved hands. "You in finance?" he asked. She didn't reply. He chuckled. "A lot of paper for someone going digital." "I manage assets people like you can't see," she said. No response. No supervisor stepped in. She packed up her belongings herself. At the lounge entrance, her boarding pass was declined. "Not cleared for lounge access," said the woman at the desk. Eleanor pulled up the receipt of her ticket purchase. "Oh, system glitch," the receptionist said, forcing a smile. "I'll override it." 3 attempts. Finally, it blinked green. Inside, Eleanor sat near the window, hands folded, spine straight. She wasn't there for champagne or velvet chairs. She just needed stillness. But even that would not last. At 7:03 a.m., her flight hadn't left, but it had left her. The digital manifest no longer displayed her name. The gate door was closed. She made her way to a kiosk, typed in her confirmation. The machine spat out a boarding pass, Seat 32B, middle seat, back of the plane. She stepped away slowly, checking the seating map. Lavatory adjacent. Overflow zone. A deliberate move. She returned to the desk. "Ma'am, we'll escalate this," the new agent said, typing aimlessly. "But the manifest's locked." "Unlock it. We don't have that kind of access." "Then get someone who does." A slip of paper, a phone number. Eleanor ignored it. "I'm not calling anyone." "Fix it." No one did. At the dining corner, the same meal she'd requested days in advance, gluten-free, dairy-free, low sodium, was gone. Another man, a vegan traveler, was handed the exact order. "That's my meal," she said. "It was specially requested." The host replied, "No seat, no lounge, no food." They weren't denying her privileges. They were deleting her presence. Her bag was seized for exceeding carry-on dimensions. No notice, no tag, no process. She found a bench, pulled out her phone. No call, just strategy. This was no longer a delay. It was design. They were erasing her, one protocol at a time. Then came the watch. Security approached her again, this time flanked by 2 airline reps. Her platinum wristwatch didn't match inventory databases. "Are you accusing me of theft?" she asked. "No, just verifying." "You don't get to verify what you don't own," Eleanor snapped. They backed off, but the tension stayed. A young male staffer asked her to move from a chair near an outlet. "That's for business travelers." "I am one." Not on the manifest, though. No signage, no explanation. She moved to a broken outlet further away. This was not inconvenience. This was calculated exclusion. A water cart rolled by. It skipped her. She asked politely. "You're not on the priority list," the staffer replied. "We've been told to be selective." Her phone buzzed. Geneva preparations confirmed. Contracts aligned. Meetings set. Except she wasn't moving. Even vending machines declined her card. Every time she tried to step back into her identity, the system blocked her, digitally, procedurally, physically. A man muttered, "Always a problem, huh?" Eleanor didn't respond. By the time her bag was returned, soiled, bent, and tampered with, it didn't matter. Her documents were damaged, her personal effects violated. She filed a complaint. The system rejected it. Flagged. Code 37C. Special attention. Back at the gate, she tried once more. "Ms. Vance, you've been flagged." "Can't let you board," Trent, the supervisor, said coolly. "You downgraded me illegally." "Ma'am, we're asking for cooperation." A hand touched her shoulder, lightly but with finality. "Don't touch me," she said, stepping back. Quiet but firm. Security boxed her in. The final act wasn't explosive. It was suffocating. But Eleanor Vance didn't scream. She dialed. 2 words. "It's time." On the other end, confirmation. Action. Full withdrawal. Sovereign fund. Block all negotiations. Effective immediately. She walked to the nearest help desk, dropped a folder to Leonard Pierce, VP of International Ops. Urgent internal behavior audits. Timestamped. Verified. Her investment firm didn't just hold equity. It held oversight. It held the future of this airline's entire operational structure. 20 minutes later, red alerts blinked across internal systems. Manual review. Massive financial withdrawal. Stock impact projections. Loss estimates. $615 million. Back at the gate, Trent smiled as if nothing had changed. He was called to Boardroom B. There, 3 regional executives and a legal advisor handed him a folder. "Do you know who Eleanor Vance is?" one asked. "She's been a problem all morning," he said. "She's not a problem," the man corrected. "She's your employer." The evidence laid out. Discrimination data logs, internal flagging, false reassignments. 2 choices: resign or be publicly named. By noon, the company had grounded all flights. Press releases failed. Shares plummeted. contracts canceled. Eleanor never flew with them again. She didn't have to. Her flight had already changed everything. In the days that followed, the media scrambled. Not just because a high-profile investor had grounded a major airline with a single phone call, but because no one saw it coming. There had been no televised tirade, no live-streamed confrontation, just a name, Eleanor Vance, a figure who had always preferred action over attention. While headlines debated the implications of her stand, investor brings airline to its knees over discrimination allegation, systemic bias exposed in silent rebellion, how one passenger changed everything without saying a word. In a word, Eleanor remained absent from the interviews. Her statement, when issued, was a mere 2 sentences long. Equity is not a favor. It is the foundation. When access becomes conditional upon appearance, the entire structure must be dismantled. We've begun. The fallout was swift and surgical. The Department of Transportation launched an independent review of Zenith Airlines' airport practices and internal flagging system. Congressional committees subpoenaed internal communications. Class action suits formed quietly and rapidly. Civil liberties watchdog groups flooded forums and social media with testimony from passengers who'd experienced similar mistreatment. Many had been dismissed until now. The airline tried damage control. Their PR division drafted heartfelt statements. Their CEO stepped down within a week. They offered Eleanor formal apologies, private meetings, restitution, and open-door panels for collaborative reform. She declined them all. Her presence had already spoken. By the end of the fiscal quarter, Orion International, the parent company to Zenith, had dissolved 2 of its regional subsidiaries. A third entered merger negotiations under heavy scrutiny. Stockholders held emergency votes to restructure leadership. And one by one, those who once whispered instructions like flag her, reassign her seat, block lounge access, disappeared quietly into forced resignations and non-disclosure agreements. Eleanor, meanwhile, continued her work. She redirected her team's focus to aviation compliance, infrastructure funding, third-party oversight groups to embed within airport systems, not to police, but to witness, to record, to verify. Her actions set off a ripple effect in industries beyond aviation. Other transportation sectors, luxury cruise liners, high-speed rail companies, even automotive rideshare apps, suddenly found themselves reevaluating internal labels, demographic profiling algorithms, customer treatment protocols. Because what Eleanor Vance had exposed wasn't an outlier. It was a blueprint. The same system that had demoted her, ignored her, erased her, existed in boardrooms, in hiring practices, in promotions denied without explanation. She had simply peeled the curtain back in a place visible enough to force a reckoning. 6 months later, Eleanor stood at the edge of a different terminal, Geneva this time. She wore the same coat, the same quiet confidence. A young staffer approached, nervous but composed. "Miss Taylor, your car is ready." "Thank you," she said gently. The girl hesitated. I wanted to say what you did back home. It mattered." Eleanor turned to her fully. "It still matters," she said, "but only if others carry it forward." The girl nodded, understanding more than she could say aloud. Eleanor stepped into the waiting black sedan, windows tinted, and disappeared into the early Swiss morning. Inside the terminal, a group of executives from a regional airline sat reviewing a training module, one written in part by Eleanor's compliance firm. The module's title, "Bias is Not Invisible. It's Just Unchallenged." They didn't know she was in town, that she'd quietly rerouted millions in global travel contracts away from institutions still clinging to outdated hierarchies. She never flew under her name anymore. Not out of fear, but out of strategy. When systems know you're watching, they behave. But Eleanor Vance didn't need to be seen. She just needed to be known. And she was. By every executive who flinched at her name, by every staffer who remembered the silence she dismantled, by every passenger who'd ever been asked to move without reason. Her legacy wasn't loud. It was lasting. And in an industry built on movement, she made sure one truth never stood still again. You can't erase someone who refuses to vanish. The sky belonged to everyone now, and Eleanor Vance made sure it stayed that way.